For your Math 1 class for this year, you'll start off with equations. The good news with equations is a lot of it kind of starts off reviewing. We do add more stuff with that though, okay? So to start with, we gotta be able to distribute. Anytime you have an equation, distributing is what's gonna happen first. So if you look at your sheets, distribute, the number that is in front of the parentheses and any sign with it gets multiplied by both parts on the inside. You know, this stuff's 6th grade math, just, you know, the negative signs you did added to it last year. So 8 times 2g would make 16g. 8 times minus 9 makes a minus 72. All right, so anytime you have parentheses, whatever number or sign is in front of the parentheses gets multiplied through. Y'all go ahead, do 2 and 3 there. On your sheet, I kind of cut and paste some stuff, so it does kind of sometimes jump around number-wise. All right, who can give me number 2? Emmy. No. Riley. No. That'll work. When you distribute, again, the sign matters. So the sign gets multiplied through as well. So negative 5 times 13d makes negative 65d. That negative 5 still gets multiplied by the 11. So negative 5 times 11 would be negative 55. Usually you'll just see that as a minus 55 though. All right, plus negative 55 would be the same thing. On an answer choice, it'd probably be just the minus though. All right, number 3. Shane? (4m plus 32 is correct. You got negative 4, so when it gets multiplied by negative m, that makes it a positive 4m. Negative 4 times the minus 8 makes it a positive 32. So we got 4m plus 32. All right, so when we have equations that have parentheses, you're going to need to be able to distribute. Just a matter of multiplying. Always pay attention to those signs. Other thing you'll have to do in some of these equations is combine like terms. When you have different terms, they're the numbers separated by plus or minus. Those are the terms. So we got 3 terms right here. And you can see I got 13r and 5r, and I got a 2n. Variables can only be combined with the same variable. Constants can only be combined with constants. So I can combine the 13r and the 5r. That makes 18r. And the 2n, there's nothing to combine it with. And that's where you would stop. We can't combine r's and n's or whatever different variables you might have. Okay? Y'all try 7 and 8. Like I said, I skipped around a little bit, so that's why the numbering's off. Again, you got to pay attention to your signs. Make sure you're doing the correct math for the correct sign. Who's got number 7? Levi. Nope. Aiden. No. Brian. No. Ryder. No. When we're combining, the k's can get combined. The constants cannot be combined with variables. The signs are the same. This is adding or subtracting when you're putting things together. If the signs are the same, you add. So a negative 1k and a negative 12k makes a negative 13k. And then you got a plus 16 that can't be combined. Who's got number 8? Oliver. Yeah, negative 3m plus 25g. So we got a 7m and a minus 10m. Signs are different. You subtract. 10 minus 7 is 3. Sign of the bigger number, that's why it's negative 3m. Then we have a plus 19 and a plus 6g. So plus and plus, you're just adding them up, you get 25g. M and G are different variables. They can't be combined. So that would be step 2 on any equation. We distribute if it's there, then we're going to combine like terms. So far, this is all 6th and 7th grade math. All right, so when we're doing one-step equations, the equation part of it, what you want to do is you're trying to isolate the variable. That means you're trying to get the variable by itself. The way you do that is by doing the opposite, or to use a mathematical term, inverse operations. So if there's adding, you subtract. If there's subtraction, you add. If there's multiplication, you divide. If there's division, you multiply. When you have two-step equations, which after you combine like terms or distribute, that's all that will be left, will be 2 steps. The addition and subtraction gets rid of the constant. So if there's any addition or subtraction, you do that part before the multiplication and division. The multiplication and division removes your coefficient. And when you divide by a fraction, a little tip they got there, you multiply by the reciprocal. You know, when you divide by a fraction, you keep change, flip. When you flip the fraction, that's known as the reciprocal. All right, so when we look at equations, these are all one-step equations. These are all 6th grade math equations, except for maybe a couple of them got negatives. You do the opposite. We've got x in number 1, x divided by 1.5. So you would multiply both sides by 1.5. Whatever you do to one side, you got to do the same thing to the other. So when we multiply on the left side, those 1.5s cancel out, and we got the variable by itself, which is what we want. 16 times 1.5, you're going to give me 24. So same idea with each of these others. You're doing one step. You're going ahead to solve it by doing opposite. So we got a t minus 4.25 equals negative 4. Opposite of subtraction. So I add 4.25 to each side. It cancels it out on the left. So all I've got left is t equals, I've got negative 4 plus 4.25. Signs are different, so we subtract. 4.25 minus 4 is 0.25. And use sign of the bigger number, it was a plus 4.25, so that makes it a positive. Any questions on those there, those two? All right, y'all do 3 and 4. All right, you can give me number 3. Aiden? When you have a number in front of a variable, number in front of a variable is multiplication. What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So you're going to divide each side by 6/7. When you divide by a fraction, so if I have 12 divided by 6/7, you multiply by the reciprocal, so you keep change flip. So you got 12, we put it over 1, times 7 over 6. So we multiply that across the top, got 84 over 6. 84 over 6 is 14. There's another way you can do this too. When you have a fraction as a coefficient, what we can think of that is if I have 6/7 and I multiply 6/7 by e, I do e over 1. So when I multiply that, the e, or my variable, will be with the 6. So if we think of that as multiple steps, we could also do it that way. You can multiply by the 7 and divide by the 6, do the opposite. The way that's helpful is the order on that part doesn't matter. So if I divide first, what's 12 divided by 6? 2. 2 times 7? So either way, you end up with 14. So if you have just a fraction as a coefficient, you can divide by the numerator and then multiply by the denominator, and sometimes that's a little easier to work with. Who's got number 4? Sophia? You got negative 6.5. You got plus 10. So we subtract 10 from each side. When you subtract, you're going to need to put the big number on top to work that out. And you're going to want to line up decimals. Once you subtract, we'd get the 6.5. You got to use the sign of the bigger number. So that's how we get the negative 6.5. Any questions on any of those? I say, except for the fact that we had some negative numbers, one-step equations, that stuff you did in 6th grade. So your multi-step equations is what you did last year. If possible or necessary, always what you need to do, you're going to need to combine like terms. And even before that, I kind of left that part off, you want to distribute if there's any parentheses. Once you've got that done, you're isolating the variable, solving the equation. You know, trying to get the variable by itself by doing opposite. So if you flip that sheet over, you're going to see on the other side, the equation is a little more complicated, right? Or a little more to it. So we're going to combine like terms first. So if we look at letter A here, I've got an 8x and a minus 2x. So what's 8x minus 2x? 6x. The signs are different, so we're just going to subtract. Sign the bigger number, so I got a 6x. There's a minus 28 and a negative 10, right? Can I combine those? No. Why not, Ryder?
Minus 10 is after the
Yeah, so when we're combining like terms, when we're at that step for combining like terms at the beginning of a problem, you can only combine things that are on the same side of the equal sign, okay? So for right now, we got to just keep the minus 28 there and the minus 10 on the right. Everybody clear on that? You only combine them when they're on the same side. And now it's just a regular equation. So we solve by doing opposite. I add 28 to both sides. I get 6x, because those cancel out, equals, signs are different, subtract. I don't know why I put equals twice. But 6x equals 18. We divide by 6, so we get x equals 3. Any questions on that one? All right, so I'll do F also then. So I got x's that I can combine. I got 3.3x and a minus x. Remember, minus x is the same as saying what? Minus 1x. Okay, so 3.3 minus 1 gives me 2.3x. And we still got the minus 26.4 equals 1.2. Just like Ryder had said before, they're opposite sides of the equal sign, so we can't combine those constants. Are there problems where you can combine constants? Yeah. You'll do one in just a second. So we solve. We add 26.4, and we do it to both sides. So it cancels out on the left. I got 2.3x equals, and that's going to give me 27.6. And then we divide. I divide both sides by 2.3. And I would get x equals 12. Everybody see how it works. Combine like terms, then you start doing opposite. Y'all do B and G. All right, letter B. Thomas? 23 is correct. So we get x equals 23. We combine like terms. This is one where you can combine the constants. So we just got 2x plus 13 equals 59. You subtract 13. So you'd have 2x equals 46. When you divide, you get 23. Any questions on that one? All right, who could give me G? Aiden? Nope. All right, so we combine. I've got a 7x, a minus 10x, and a 2x. To me, if you do the ones with the same sign first and then put them together with the different signs, that sometimes makes it easier. So 7x plus 2x is 9x. 9x minus 10x makes a minus 1x, or negative x. We got plus 18 equals negative 5. Minus 18 cancels out there. So we got negative 1x. Signs are the same. So you add. That gives you 23, but you got to keep the sign when you add, if they're the same sign. So we got negative 23. Aiden, you either lost your negative sign there or forgot this last step. Since we got a negative coefficient, when you got negative 1, you technically are dividing by negative 1, or really all that's doing is switching the sign. Okay? Any questions on those? All right, I'm not gonna do all of these. I'm just gonna show you something with letter I. All right, everybody see I? It's the one that's got two fractions in it. What's the common denominator on those fractions? 2. All right, so they happen to have the same denominator, but even if they didn't, if you found a common denominator, one of the things you can do when you solve an equation, if it has fractions, I'm basically going to distribute a common denominator to the whole thing. All right? It gets distributed to every part. So 2 times 15 is 30. 2 times a half is 1. 2 times 3 halves x is 3x. 2 times 10 is 20. Everybody follow with what I did? I took what the common denominator is, and I multiplied everything in the equation. Every number, both sides. What don't I have anymore? Fractions. Could I still have a fraction for an answer? Yeah. But it eliminates doing some of the math with the fractions, okay? If you had other parentheses, you're going to want to distribute before you ever do that, though. So now we solve. So I've got 30 still. 1 and 20 makes 21 plus a 3x. We subtract 21. That gives me 9 equals the 3x. So we would get x equals 3. If you would have solved it with the fractions, you still would have got x equals 3. It just might have been a little more complicated. Okay? Any questions there? So just to go through it again, your steps when you solve. You distribute first. So if there is anything to distribute, if there's any parentheses, that gets taken care of first. So if we look at number 1 right here next to it, I've got parentheses. That -4 gets multiplied to both parts inside the parentheses. I don't distribute it to the -8. That's outside the parentheses. So -4 times the -6x makes positive 24x. -4 times positive 1 makes -4. Still have -8. Still equals 12. All right, so there's step 1, distribute. We're going to combine like terms. Is that always going to be necessary? No, that's why it says in parentheses, if necessary. So we have 2 constants there we can combine. So I've got 24x. If I've got -4 and a -8, signs are the same, that means I do what? Add, and then I keep the sign. So that makes a -12, and still equals 12. Then we solve the equation by doing the opposite. I mean, that's really kind of combining 2 steps into 1 by just saying solve, but that's how it goes. So adding or subtracting, we get rid of first. By doing opposite, we add 12, cancels. So I got 24x equals 24. We divide, get x equals 1. All right, everybody follow? Distribute, combine like terms, then solve. All of this is still 7th grade math. We're going to wait till tomorrow to really get into the 8th grade math with this. We're going to add another step to that, okay? Y'all go ahead, let's just do number 2, okay? right. What you got, Riley? No. Who's got number 2? Aiden. What's the first step? Distribute. When I distribute, 2 is in front of the parentheses. It gets multiplied to the 2 parts inside the parentheses. So we still got the 4. Nothing happened to it. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times minus 8 is minus 16. And then equals 44. We combine like terms. For my like terms, I've got a 4 and a minus 16. So I still have the 2x. Signs are different on the 4 and the minus 16. So since the signs are different, we subtract, use the sign of the bigger number, so that makes minus 12 equals 44. Now we solve. So add 12. We get 2x equals 56. When we divide, we get x equals 28. Any questions on that? Anyone think they need to see number 3?